Revit is really quick and efficient when it comes to rectangular shapes, but what do we do in a situation where we have something like this stadium? Well, it can be really difficult to create something like this. That's why in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create this exact shape. We're going to be creating this kind of wavy structure, and I'm just going to be showing you every step of the way of how you can accomplish this. It's not going to be easy, it's definitely not going to be quick, but it is possible, and I'm going to show you how. Let's go. Now quickly, before we jump into Revit, I would just quickly like to ask you to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com. I'm going to link it up just below this video in the description, and then also up in the cards above. That's where I place all of my Revit courses, where I take the extra time to go slowly, step by step, through all of the complex topics inside of Revit, such as massing, for example, which we're going to be using today, or conceptual design. I have a whole course on this topic if you're interested. Also there you can find some of my ready-to-go custom Revit templates. You have some really high-quality parametric Revit families, and we also have a plugin which might interest you too. Okay, so now without any further ado, let's jump straight into Revit. And here we are at Revit's home screen. So what I'm going to do now is just go here to massing and site, because this is going to be built as a conceptual mass. So you just want to check here, show mass, and then you go to in place mass. You can name it if you want, I'm not going to, and there we go. Okay, so first I like to set up some reference planes which we're going to be using for this design. So I'm just going to go here to reference plane, and then here in the floor plan view, or level 1 view, I'm going to create one big horizontal reference plane and then a smaller vertical one. This is going to give me a center of our stadium. Then I'm going to name this one main, because this is going to be my main reference plane. This one I don't actually need to name. Now, when it comes to naming, you name it so you can easily select it later on. Okay, so once we have this in place, what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go here to my draw tools. I'm going to pick out an ellipse tool, and then let's create an ellipse such as this. So I'm just kind of eyeballing what that stadium would look like. So let's say we're doing something that would look like this. For the dimensions, I'm not going to follow exact dimensions. I'm mainly interested in the shape at this point, so I'm just doing this as a demonstration. Obviously, if you were doing this as a real project, you would definitely care about the precise dimensions. So anyways, once we have this in place, then I'm just going to jump into my south elevation, which is just going to give me an elevation view. And then here I can judge, okay, so this is the stadium, this is the kind of the length of it. And then for the height, I want it to go up to here, for example. So I'm just going to go here to reference plane and place one reference plane there on top. Then I'm just going to go to this regular align tool, and then here, this is where we come to the situation where we use the name. So remember how we named this reference plane main. Now we can just pick it out as our host. And then I'm just going to go from the edge here and just going to create the edge of this stadium, which I want to use. So something like this. This is what I'm kind of aiming for. Okay, so once we have this in place, now what I can do is I can go here to reference plane, and I can place one vertical, oops, this was reference line. Let's go to reference plane, okay. One vertical reference plane there and stretch it out like this. So now we have that vertical one. And then what you can do is you can actually go here to reference plane, and you can add a couple more just as reference. So in this case, I'm going to add 3 in total, so 1 on top and then 2 here in the middle. And then also what I'll do is I'll add 1 here like this on top, and then 1 which is even kind of closer in. So I'm using these to create kind of the shape of my stadium. I want my shape, and let me use a spline here, I want the shape of my stadium to go something like this. So something like that. This is what I'm looking for. This is the shape. And then these reference planes will help me get that. So let me show you what's the next step then. I can delete all of this right now. Okay, so the next step is going to be to place a few more reference planes here. So one will go like that, and then one will go like this. Then you want to name all of the horizontal reference planes. So this one will be number 1, this one will be number 2, this one will be number 3, Okay, this will be number 4. And finally, we have number 5. Okay, so once everything is named, now I can go to the site plan because it will allow me to see a bit more, and we can get rid of that level 1. And now we're just going to create a series of ellipses, but I want to keep the same proportions as I have here. So what you'll do for this is you're going to select the ellipse, go to copy to clipboard, then go to paste, and now select it to aligned aligned levels. If you used levels, in this case I used reference planes, so just go to align to same place, and then it just duplicated that, and then you just pick out a new level, in this case reference plane number 1. Once it's there on reference plane number 1, you want to go here to scale, click on that, go to center, go from here up to that first one, and there we go. So now if you go back to south elevation, see, now we have that same ellipse with the same proportions going to this line here, which is kind of giving us that diagonal line. So let me just show you this a little bit better. So now I'm just going to select this one, go here to copy to clipboard, go to paste, go to align to same place, so it's basically aligned to the same ellipse. Then I will go to reference plane, go now to reference plane number 2, which is just going to give it, kind of bring it up one more step. Once it's there, we just go here to scale, we go from center, and then we go from this one to this one. There we go. So now we have the next one, and in the elevation view, this is what that looks like. So we just have to repeat that a few times, which is something that I'm going to kind of fast forward because I don't want this video kind of taking forever. Okay, and this is what we have. So this is what I was kind of aiming for, and this is the shape that I got. So you noticed the last two, I just brought them in a little bit and then a little bit further, and that gives us this shape. So once we have all of these in place, I can now select all of the ellipses, go to create form, and it's going to create a form that looks like this. Now, if you're annoyed with this kind of edge situation that we have here, you can either play around with this whole thing by going into X-ray, and then you can kind of play around with the ellipses, you can stretch them out, or so on and so forth. So for example, in this case, what you could essentially do is just scale this up a little bit, so something like that. Let's see, did this change anything? Well, a little bit, I guess. So you can play around with that. I really don't think it's necessary. So anyways, I'm just going to select this, so you hover over it, hit the tab key once, and then you uncheck X-ray, and this is what we have. So once we have the main shape in place, then I'm just going to select one of the sides here, and I'm just going to be showing you on one side, and then you can just repeat that on the other one if you want. You go to divide surface, and it's going to give you something that looks like this, and we're going to leave it as is. So we're not going to be changing the pattern. However, we'll be changing the U grid to 5 and then the V grid to 8. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, so that gives us something that looks like this. So I'm happy with the way that this turned out. So the next step, that what you want to do is you want to add nodes to this. So you can go here to surface representation, you click on the little arrow, and that gives you surface representation, and you just check nodes on and click OK. So now these are actual points in 3D geometry where you can host things. Okay, so first step is done. We have our main shape. The next step is to create the actual patterns here on this stadium. So what you'll do for that is first you want to go here to spline and pick out spline through points. Once you have selected that, now what you can do is you can just come in here, and then let's start off from this point, for example, and then we just want to make sure that it says drawn face, and then you're just going to be following these nodes that we have there, and we're just kind of following that shape that we've seen on the stadium itself. So you go like that. Okay, and this is what we get. You hit the escape key once to stop, and this is the shape that we have gotten. Now you want to repeat that. Now in this case from the bottom, go to here. It's going to give you an error. You just ignore it and hope for the best, and you just continue on. So let's go up to here. Okay. up to there, okay, and then finally you end up here and hit the escape key a couple of times. Now you might be thinking, well, this is nice everywhere except here in the beginning, where we're obviously kind of losing the shape that we want. And that's okay. You can actually fix this by adding a new point to this. So just go here to point element, you host it wherever you think it's necessary, and it's kind of something that you develop over the way. You're going to develop the feel for it, and then you have the point there, you select it, and then you turn or check make point driving. And now if you select it again, now you can see you can actually move it in 3D space, and it's actually going to move the spline. So you just want to move it to the position where it's actually making sense. So in this case, that would be something like this, and then you can repeat that on all other sides. You can also move it kind of along the axis of the spline, and then this is just something that I'm going to repeat for the rest of them. And as you can see now, I have added one more spline at the bottom, and then we have these two, which I've kind of perfected a little bit on top. Obviously, if you were doing this as a real project, you would care a lot more about the detail and precision. Now it's time to actually turn this into 3D geometry, and the best way to do that, which will give you most kind of most potential for adjustment, is going to be through series of profiles. So now I'm just going to go again to the point element and host it on one of these splines, just like that. Hit the escape key a couple of times, and actually I'm just going to move this one, so just slide it back. Okay, and then you want to create a rectangle on that surface. So you just go here to set work plane, set it to that, you go to rectangle, you check draw on work plane, and then you can create that rectangle here. Now in some cases it's just going to go off a little bit, that's okay. And then just judging kind of from the size of it, perhaps we can make it a bit larger. So something like that would probably work better. Okay. So once we have that rectangle here, I'm just going to rotate it. So just go to rotate, place center of rotation here, just like that. Okay, perfect. So once we have this rectangle here, you're going to select both the rect, and this might be a bit difficult. So you just want to select the point and the rectangle on that point, and you want to go to copy, and you just copy it here. And you don't copy it once, you check multiple, and then you copy it like a bunch of times. Okay, so this is what you're looking for. So once this is copied, you can select one of these, or actually just select the point, and then you go to pick new host, and then you can just place it here, and it's going to take that rectangle with it. You go to this one, pick new host, place it there, go to this one, pick new host, place it there. Now in this case, more of these that you place, it's going to give you more kind of precision when it comes to adjustment, and it's going to make it look a lot cleaner and nicer. However, the downside is, well, it's going to take forever. So it really depends on what you're trying to do here. Because I'm doing this just for kind of demonstration purposes, I'm not going to go too deep and have too many of these. So I'm just going to place this one here. Now I need a few more, so let's select this one, go to copy, and then just copy it a bunch of times again. Okay, select the point, pick new host, place it there, select, this point, pick new host, and just go like that all the way to the end of this thing. Let's do one more here, and then I think we need, okay, I think we have kind of the exact amount here. And then for the rest of these, I'm just going to kind of fast forward that process, obviously. So anyways, once we have the last one in place, then you want to kind of, you don't have to do this at this point, but I like to. You can just check and see if they all kind of look okay, if the rotation is okay on all of them, and in this case it does seem to be. Okay, so once we have that all in place, now it's time to connect them and turn this into actual geometry. So what you want to do is you just want to select one rectangle, hold the control key, and just keep adding the rectangles. Did I do this right? I did. Okay, hold the control key, and then just keep adding them. Oops, it might be hard to see. Okay, I stopped here, so now this one. Okay, so you don't have to go all the way around, so I like to go kind of halfway and go to create form, and then you can see this is what we're getting. So this is actually turning into actual geometry, and it looks really nice. Now to complete it, you select the whole geometry by hovering over it, hitting the tab key once, and then you go to hold the control key, add this one and this one and this one, and then create form. Now, in some cases, it's going to go all the way to the end, and in some cases, it isn't. So let's see, will it work here? Create form. Okay, it worked here, and that's really good. However, if it doesn't, what you can do is you can start from one side and then start from the other, and at some point just have two profiles that are really close together, and then you're just going to join them there with a simple extrusion. So that's one solution. Okay, so once we have this in place, the next step is going to be to actually select this whole thing. So again, I'm just hovering over it, hitting the tab key a few times, and then selecting it. And now if you want to make some adjustments, so let's say, okay, here I want it to be more kind of rotated horizontally. Well, you can always go to X-ray. It's going to show you all of the profiles. You can select the entire profile by clicking on the point in the middle. So this selects in the entire profile, and then you can just rotate that. So you can come here and rotate it a little bit, and it's actually going to rotate the form. If you rotate it a lot, it's going to rotate the form a lot. Obviously, I don't want this. So I'm just going to hit finish, and that's what we have. So there we go. This is how we create this kind of initial part of the shape. Now I'm just going to continue with the rest of it. So you can see I'm finishing this up, and now I have a problem where this is the last one, and if I go and add this one and these profiles and go to create form, Revit is just going to give me an error message telling me that this cannot be done. So let me show you a kind of a workaround for this situation. I'm just going to select this profile here, and I'm going to copy it off to the side a couple of times. Once we have this, I'm just going to select this point, go to pick new host, and then I'm going to place it here kind of as close to this as I can. And then for this one, pick new host, I'm just going to place it a little bit kind of in front of that. So this should give me the desired result. So what I'll do now is select these 3 points, and this one, and I can go all the way to the end, create form, and that will give me the form. And then finally here I can solve this with a simple extrusion between these two edges. So here, click the tab key a few times, select just the two rectangles, create form, and it's going to connect them. Obviously it isn't perfect, and you would have to add more points. So for example, add another profile here, that would be useful, but in this case I think this does get the job done, so I'm just going to leave it as is. And there we go. So now we have this whole thing completed, well, at least this part of it. Now you might be thinking, well, that's all well and nice, but what do you do about the top part? How do you model that? And that's actually, well, as simple as this is, which is, well, it's kind of simple, kind of isn't. So let me show you. You're just going to go again to the spline through points, and then you're just going to connect certain points here. So let's go here to draw on face and just kind of go in a horizontal line, picking all of the points at this particular level. So I'm just going to go all the way to the other side, just like that. Hit the escape key a couple of times, and then what you'll do here is you're going to use the same approach where we host a point on this spline, so just like that. And then instead of having this point kind of as a rectangle, we're going to create something a bit more complicated on it. So what I'll do is I'll create a rectangle first, or actually it doesn't have to be a rectangle at all. So let me try that. So I'm just going to kind of position myself looking straight at it. Let's try doing this as a, just as an arc. So I can do this, yeah, let's go like that. Tangent arc. Let's actually stop it here, perhaps, and then just extend it a little bit further here. Go down, go back, and then for the other side, I can just use big lines. So let me measure this. So this is 617, okay, big lines, offset 617, and then I can just offset this. Perfect. And here we can just use the, let's see, can we connect these with the tab key? Yes, we can. Okay, and then on the bottom here, I would just also bring this in a little bit like that. and then bring this one a little bit as well, and then just extend this perpendicularly to create a shape that looks something like this. Obviously it isn't perfect, but it will get the job done for now. And then this side we can bring it in or wherever you want, if you want it. Okay, so now once we have this created, we select that shape, we select the point, and then we go to copy, and then we copy it off to the side a couple of times. Okay, now let's select this point, go to pick new host, and then again place it on that spline, which is going to be, in this case, let's go here. Then I'm going to select this point, pick new host, and place it on the same spline. Oops, not there. Let's try that again. Pick new host and place it like that, and so on and so forth. So we have this one here. So let's just do 4 for now, and place it here on the same spline, like so. Okay, so once we have those in place, now what you want to do is you want to select this bottom here, and then you just want to extend that down to wherever you want it to be. Then in this case we actually want to move this up a little bit, and then here we want to move it down. Then here we also want to move it down. And then of course, as I said, you want to have as many of these as you want, or as much as possible, in order to get best precision. But anyways, now when I go create form, this is what we get. We get that top of the stadium, that top part of the stadium. So now I'm just going to kind of finish this up, and we're going to have a completed model. Well, now we finally have one side of the stadium completed. So as you can see, this is the end result. Of course, we can edit this at any time by selecting it, going into X-ray, and then here, for example, I can move this down a little bit, and so on and so forth, just to make this shape look however I want it to look. Now I'm just going to select it again and then turn the X-ray off. And finally, something that I like to do is just add some sort of a material. So for this thing on top, I'm just going to add some white material. So I think gypsum wallboard will work just as a material, just to make it look nice for now. And then for the rest of these, I'm just going to select them. Oops. There we go. And for this, let's use something like aluminum or aluminium. Okay, there we go. Looks good. And then if we go to realistic, this is the result that we get. And as you can see, it looks pretty good. I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. We can go here to finish mass. Just to view it a little bit better. Here we can of course turn on the shadows, which is just going to make this look even nicer. Let's try ambient shadows, and this is going to look really, really good. So I'm quite happy with the way that this turned out. Here I just have to adjust the material for this segment, but that's okay. I'm actually amazed at how good this turned out. So anyways, if you want to get this Revit project file, you can find it on my Patreon page, which I'm going to link down in the description and also up in the cards above. There you can find all of my Revit project files, over 500 files so far. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com, for more Revit courses. There I have over 120 hours of content, and I'm adding more each week. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and also I've added a video over there that might interest you as well.